Call the meeting to order. Council, I have two agenda adjustments. I need to add consider appointment for the CVB board and add a real estate acquisition.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Dry.
Is the real estate in open session?
Yes, they'll both be up.
Second.
Second was Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. First is a special presentation. I'm gonna read this proclamation, then I'm gonna come out there since we got a large crowd. City of Alma recognizes National Public Works Week with a proclamation which is May 18th through the 24th of 2025. And the title is People, Purpose, and Presence. Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of the city of Albemarle. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees of all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, and solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And where it is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in Albemarle, North Carolina, to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and the Canadian Public Works Association, be it now, I therefore, Ronnie Michael, Mayor of the City of Albemarle, do hereby designate the week of May the 18th through 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week. I urge all citizens to join with the representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies in activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. Ross, would you like to come forward and say anything before I bring the entire group up? Let's bring them all up then.
I'm glad those girls are coming up too. I'm glad the ladies are coming up too. You tell them that. They need to hear that. They need to hear that, Ross. If I sit down, I definitely will hide.
No hiding.
They can't see me, right?
Get-togethers every once in a while throughout the year, and I, really appreciate it. Like I told city manager today, we like to pride ourselves in being the unsung heroes. We don't get a lot of recognition a lot of times, but we gotta do some things behind the scenes. What we do is vital to the community. You all know that.
Thank you all.
For me,
Okay, thank you.
I want one. I'll wear it. I'll wear it to the White House this week.
Number 4, approval of minutes. City Council approved the minutes for the Monday, May 5th, 2025, regular session.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Townsend, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, are you on the speaker?
Can you hear it?
Can you hear it?
He said aim it to your mouth. Pull it to, pull the whole thing towards you, Ronnie.
Administrative reports,
Motion to.
departmental reports. Can you hear it better now? Departmental reports are in your agendas. Anyone have any questions or comments?
Would like to say to Kenny, congratulations on Rob Milano and his promotion to battalion chief, and also for providing the middle school students with a lot of rain on a very sunny day. I don't know if they had more fun in the mud than they had in the with the water coming down, but I thought that was a wonderful thing. The kids were having a lot of fun. Thanks for what you guys do. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving to new business, McGill Associates to present the Parks and Recreation Comprehensive Plan. Mr. Clark, you got any comments?
Recognize Lisa, Mayor.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to introduce Nate Palubka from McGill Associates. You've heard from him once before at our March budget session, but he has his findings for the final report for the master plan.
Good evening, Mayor, Michael, and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to join with you tonight. So the goal tonight is for, the plan's going to be released to you shortly, and you're going to have extensive time to go through. It's a 200-plus page document. What I want to do tonight is help set the context for that and give you the chance to ask questions as we go through this. But before we dive into that, I want to go through, what we're looking at. So this is a comprehensive Parks and Recreation master plan. There's a lot of change that's happening in the state of North Carolina. There's a lot of change that's happening in the city of Albemarle, and it's been very prudent for the city to take a planning approach, to understand communities change, and this is a real glimpse at you to understand what's going on and what your interests are of your public. So what I'm going to do with tonight's presentation is a little bit of time is going to be spent touching on topics that we already addressed at the work session, just to bring you back up to speed with that. And then I want to spend a little bit of time talking about recommendations that came out, just the broader topics. Whenever you have the chance to review the document, you'll be able to go into much greater depth in it. Now, the next step with this is typically for local governments to adopt a plan. And with that in mind, I want you to keep in mind that doesn't mean that you have to do 100% of everything that's in there. Rather, it's meant to be a guide as you're moving forward across over the next 10 years. Feel free, as I'm going to stop me and ask questions if you need. Like I said, at the beginning of this, it's going to be a little bit of refreshing things that we've already talked about. So the first up, there's two general different kind of frameworks or mindsets that are looked at whenever you're looking at Parks and Recreation. We talked about that on one side, Parks and Recreation departments are sometimes seen as just a strict expense side, where money goes in and you have services that come out, much like a police department or a fire department. Whereas on the other side of the spectrum, some local governments see Parks and Recreation as an investment. Yes, you get those services and those programs that come out, but the money also that goes into those programs and those service and capital items also have broader benefits on the local government. Most local governments are somewhere between those two spectrums. All right, so some of there's research that backs that Parks and Recreation actually acts like an investment in certain cases. One is that it does impact your property values somewhere between 8 and 20%, depending on the type of park, where it's located, and what type of development is around it. The other piece is economic development. They help attract residents, they help attract businesses. A lot of new businesses are often looking for places where people gather, which Parks and Recreation offers. And then visitor spending. Y'all do attract a lot of visitors, which is what we're gonna see. And those visitors not only are spending time on your parks and programs, but are also patronizing your businesses in the area. And this is just one core example. This is a park in North Carolina where you can see they made a capital investment in Parks and Recreation, and then these are their tourism receipts after they make those investments. Those are real dollars. It is continuing to impact their local economy. As we move on, as I mentioned before, whenever we had the chance to meet, that I had the chance to manage some of the state's funding that helps develop parks across the state. The core thing that I take here, that I want you to remember here, is that Parks and Recreation, this plan helps you go after grant funding. And it's not just something that just sits on a shelf. It really does help give and pay dividends over the time if you use this and follow what the public has expressed through the plan. Just to recap where your particular department is out, budgeting wise, we compared you to other local governments across North Carolina and across the country through national metrics. Your spending is pretty close to the national median. That's a pretty good thing. If we look at the size of your park system, you actually have a pretty robust or a large park system as far as the number of parks that you have, but certainly as the number of acres that you have. So that two contexts, to where you have a normal size or a median size budget and a large park system, sets you up to where you could have some strain on that particular park system. Before I go on, are there any questions about anything that I've touched on so far? All right. So park usage, this is a big one. You're going to hear a reoccurring thing talk about here. Your park usage is really strong. Where you see in the orange lines right there reflects that those are non-resident usage. Okay, you're getting a lot of non-resident usage, which is actually a good thing. It means that the city residents that are living within the city are using your parks, but you also see on the right side of the screen here, I got to tell you, hats off. Y'all are doing something that we're trying to get many, many more parks and rec departments and communities across the state and across the country to do, which is use cell phone data to understand park usage. So what you'll see is the darker colored blue means that that's where more of your intense usage is coming from. But you'll see that y'all are drawing people to use your parks from counties away. And that's regular usage, which means that your parks are drawing in visitors. Those are visitors that are, yeah, they may be playing in your soccer programs or maybe using your pools, but afterwards they're also patronizing businesses in the area, which the cell phone data that you capture right now also shows in the bottom right-hand corner. Those are some of the businesses that currently are benefiting from your Parks and Recreation system. Those are people that are using those businesses either before or directly after using your parks. The other thing that you see is your park attendance is generally on an incline. That's a good thing. That's also essentially trending with your population on the increase. You'll also see, this is just helpful for you to understand that people aren't just dropping into your parks for 10 minutes and leaving. The average use time is over an hour. Any other questions about your park usage? The big takeaway is that you're not just having a system that is serving just residents.
Did you say you track that with cell phones usage?
That's correct. The city uses, and the Parks and Recreation Department uses a third-party system that tracks cell phone uses, but in a way that it's anonymous. So you're not able to track back to the individual user other than their actual use data. So you can't say such and such person used the park, but you're able to understand that a person was there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but you know where the number's coming.
Because the third party keeps that anonymous, the city wouldn't be able to access that to the best of my knowledge. All right. So the other thing is your program participation, and this is important. On the left-hand side, you see that your program participation is on a general incline, but you're also kind of, in some areas, you're flatlining. That we don't think is because that the programs aren't receiving additional interest. It's more that some of your programs are at capacity. And I'll pull out a couple examples here. If you look at soccer and softball, they've had really high levels for a number of years. That indicates that it's probably more that capacity has been reached rather than interest. If we look over at baseball, you have an increase in use there. If you look at basketball, there's a decline. That's not because we think that there's fewer people that want to play basketball. You renovated a gym a little while back. There was probably some peak interest in that that's kind of falling off, but that doesn't mean that there's not interest there. And then the other piece is pickleball. We think that you're continually getting pickleball interest, but that doesn't mean that there's a decline in interest in it. It's just that it's probably moving from more of the formal programming to the informal playing of pickleball.
Could that be, with pickleball here, I know that we've got a lot of church gymnasiums that are hosting some of those.
That could be it. Yeah, and you'll see more private development that are coming into and kind of dipping their toes in pickleball. It's really hard. Pickleball, with it being a relatively new sport, it's going to be different to see how that usage actually gets spread across. Yep. All right, so I want to shift over. So any other questions about some of those general trends that we have before we look at what your public actually expressed interest in? All right. So moving along. So we did a lot of public input meeting. Y'all actually, you certainly had a chance to participate, and a lot of you did in the SWOT analysis. We thank you for that. We also did a Parks and Rec Department SWOT analysis. We held 2 public meetings and had a total of over 700 people participate in those. I got to say, y'all actually had one of the events that I have seen the largest number of participation for a single event. So you really did a good job of getting that out there. We had 4 focus group meetings, and then you had a statistically valid survey that was also completed. All those things, we're going to talk about public input pretty soon, but all those things were used to distill down what your interest was from your public. All right, so first things, I'm going to go over just real quick high level with this. I think you've had a chance to see this already. Like the statistically valid survey, the trails, a splash pad, indoor playground, aquatics, picnic shelter, water sports, community garden, outdoor athletic fields, and indoor multipurpose gym are some of the things that came out. So we're seeing a mix of athletics, we're seeing some aquatics in there, and some need for some indoor sports. The public input findings also showed some similar findings with the splash pad, adventure playground, camping, basketball courts, skate park, playground, baseball fields, pump track, volleyball, hammock stations. So with the public input, we saw that, and I got to tell you, you're right near Morrow Mountain State Park. You're also near Uwharries, and you also have some really nice outdoor parks of your own. It's not surprising that we saw a lot of outdoor recreation and adventure-style recreation topics came up. So with the focus group meetings, we saw a little bit, we tend to gather a little bit deeper data with them. With the focus group meetings that we came up, we saw that there was an interest, or there was at least, it was noticed that parks play a role in economic development. I got to tell you, the number of times that the Wiscasset property was brought up in the focus group was mind-blowing. It came up a lot. And often it was a, hey, what is the plan for this property in the future? This is really important, this next piece. Albemarle functions as the regional recreation provider. Now, I showed you the cell phone stats.
Mhm.
Stanley County does not have a Parks and Rec department, which means that you, as the largest department in the county, are functioning as the de facto department for the entire county. So if we go back up, your cell phone data is also supporting that. So your taxpayers, your city taxpayers, are benefiting, but you're also helping to support all of those that are living outside of your outside of your city boundaries. That isn't necessarily a terrible thing, in that you are building attractive parks that attract people in. It does put a strain on your facilities. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people are coming to come use your parks. There was also some interest in additional greenways and trails and conservation, environmental education. I got to tell you, the adventure recreation and environmental conservation, those 2 things tend to go hand in hand. I want to pause there because those are some of the big picture things before we go on. Any other questions? A lot of these things so far have been things that I'm just recapping. All right, program priorities. I got to tell you, your people that live in your city and those that are around in the area love to get together. Y'all do a great job of offering special events, and they want more of them. The other piece is that there was a highly expressed need for arts and parks and cultural items. Those are important things, and that came out. The other piece is life skills, adult athletics, aquatics, music classes, environmental education, water sports. So what you're not seeing here is a whole lot of youth athletics. That doesn't mean that there's not interest in it. We actually saw in the survey, there's deeper data in the survey that supports that there's still a large interest in youth athletics. What we saw here is that people want more. You're doing a good job. They want some of the non-youth athletic style programs. And they also want more festivals and events that bring people together. This also supports it. This is directly out of the statistically valid survey. These are your top 5 investment needs per the survey. Investing and improving in upkeep of your existing facilities. Remember, your facilities are getting a lot of wear and tear. They're serving a lot of people outside of just your residents. They need some upkeep. Hosting events that build a sense of community. Again, that was a shared thing that we found in the other pieces. Trails and greenway connections. Again, that's not the first time that we've heard that. Acquiring undeveloped land for future parks locations. And this is the biggest one, constructing a downtown multi-functional space. Yeah, I wish I had $1 for every time that I had heard, hey, what are we going to do downtown? And I got to tell you, I've done a great job with the economic revitalization downtown.
What's a downtown multifunctional?
Yeah, so there was a general sense that the community had an interest in spending more time together through those festivals and events. Some of your parks, some of the parks that are well suited, like City Lake Park, it's not near downtown. So if you're going to pull together several hundred people or 1,000 people, you're going to actually move them away from downtown. People want the ability to spend time together, and then also maybe go have something to eat afterwards or go shopping afterwards. And you have Optimist, and you have the ball fields downtown. But if you're not into ball towns, there's not a whole lot that there's to draw you downtown park-wise other than that. All right, so next up, this is a little bit hard to see on the screen, but you do have handouts in front of you. I just want to hit some of the high points and low points here. So we compared your recreation facilities against national benchmarks. If it's in blue, it means you have more than what you would normally expect in your community. If it's in red, it means that you have fewer than what you would expect in a community of your size. You have more pickleball courts and more tennis courts than you would typically see in a community of your size. Same thing with an amphitheater or an aquatic center. You have 2 pools. Now, the red pieces, this is really important because it indicates if these things are below where your benchmarks are, and if there's the same type of things that you're hearing the community wants, it could be showing that you actually have a need here. And we think that's the case. So you are below for baseball, softball, multi-purpose fields, basketball courts, multi-sport courts, playground, inclusive play, and teen center. So a lot of those things we've actually talked about, that the community wants those things. And it's not that you don't offer them. You just may not have them at the quantity that you need them right now. All right, so let's get into, before we get into the recommendations, and I'll tell you the recommendations is the last piece that I have before I'm going to open it up for questions. But are there any questions about the benchmarks or anything else that we've talked about so far? Okay. All right, so the last piece, and we go into much greater depth whenever you have the chance to review the plan. It goes in and we break this down incrementally, and we also break it down, we break it down in a chronological order. So your existing parks, ideally you need to move towards beautifying them. They're getting heavily used, and really, again, you're the de facto county parks. Your parks need reinvestment to bring them up to their optimal levels. The other piece, invest in Albemarle's quote unquote Central Park. You need some type of mixed use park, ideally, that is not only able to attract residents and visitors, but also tie to your downtown. All right, so your budgeting and funding. We recommended that you look at your non-resident fees because you're supporting so many non-residents. You're never going to be able to capture 100% from those non-resident fees to cover the cost of everything in your park system. But you have to be able to capture a little bit more if you're going to serve that many non-residents. The other thing is there are other places in the state to where not only are city funds drawn in, but the county also kicks in and helps out. So we know that that's something that would require additional discussions, but it's something that we think that it's worth visiting. And then the other piece is your TDA funds. There are some counties across the state that direct some of their tourism development funds towards parks and recreation items because they know that they're drawing in visitors, so they use those towards capital developments. We think that that's something that you should explore. The last 3 pieces before we open it up for questions is accessibility and lighting. You have safe parks, but you have, in some cases, some older parks, so safety lighting helps bring that up. The other piece with them being older parks at time or older amenities is that accessibility has to be updated every once in a while. So that's something that should be looked at. The staffing piece is really important, especially because you're serving more than just the city residents, but also because you're drawing in so many visitors. Your special event staff, which I know that your director helps out with that some right now, but your preventative maintenance and your major maintenance are some of the areas. You need to make sure that you're trying to keep up those parks, but also have enough maintenance staff that they're continually working towards improving the parks. And then the final piece, and this last one is kind of contingent upon that staffing, is ideally you need to move towards having more community events, developing a tournament capacity. You're able to serve some of your local resident parks and recreation needs for sports, but we think that there would be enough demand. You're in close enough proximity to some large cities. You're also really close to really nice outdoor recreation amenities. You're potentially a tourism hub if you wanted to have sports tourism. The last piece is that also because of that proximity to outdoor recreation, you have some parks that may be well suited for camping, RV, and adventure recreation. But again, some of those things in that last piece, the programming and events, it's really tough to do that because your staffing right now is more or less maxed out. All right, so again, I went through that really quickly. You're going to have the chance to read, and I said it's a 200-plus page document. The next steps would be for you to review it. By all means, we welcome feedback if you have it. But again, adoption doesn't mean that you have to do 100% of what's in there. It's meant to guide you, but it does help you go after funding, and it does recognize that, hey, we're hearing what the public had to say, and we're going to, keep that in mind as we're going to continue to develop. So with that being it, by all means, yes, ma'am.
So, you were right here at budget time,
Yes.
and something that I said to council and or those in attendance last week at our budget meeting was, we need to find some low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
really do, and I hung my hand on low-hanging fruit
Yep.
last week, waiting to get here.
Yep.
Because the one thing that you said that we talked about last week, and I've talked about forever, is the tourism money,
Mhm.
okay? Where's that going? And that we are, because we're the largest city in the county, and because we have the most number of parks, okay?
Oh, you're one of the biggest draws here.
We
Yeah.
are, and we are the park system for the county.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's one of the reasons that our next issues up here about raising those. But give me, you know what the 200 pages say. I know what
Yeah.
this 20
Yeah.
pages is. What's some low hanging? I heard from you
Mhm.
that low hanging fruit might be facilities. Really putting some emphasis on some facilities.
Yeah, I think I'm glad that came across because that's what I would say is, you have some larger capital needs, but I think your low-hanging fruit right now is if you want to move towards attracting more residents, if you can go through and start to do beautification in your park systems, update the landscaping, update the signage, do some brand standards and some brand management so that whenever those people are coming in and using your park system and they're not familiar with it, they get a little bit of an awe factor whenever they come in and step into one of your parks. Right now, if they step in, depending on what park they go to, they either get an wow factor or they get this park's getting used a lot. So I would consider that. So updating the look of some of your parks, updating that signage so that they know how to get around, and that just sets you up to be able to market better as you move towards more of the pricier, more capital side of things that help draw people in. Does that help?
A coat of paint.
A coat of paint, some flowers, a new sign, and a marketing strategy, and a solid marketing strategy.
And I would say to my fellows up here, that's something that I don't paint well, but it may be that some of us could do some tender loving care
Yeah.
on some things.
And that's why one of the biggest things that we're suggesting is additional maintenance staffing that isn't just keeping up with the day-to-day type stuff, that is maybe a little more targeted towards what do we do with our current staff that updates the things that we have. And some of those things you may be able to just, use a local business to help out with some of those things also.
So other follow through, what would be another low hanging fruit besides that?
I think one of the biggest things is to do a preliminary analysis at Wiscasset. It kind of sets your strategy. You need to understand what you can actually do on the site. You can do a plan to understand, hey, can we actually put ball fields here? Or does it need to be more of a green open space, more gathering space? But right now, some of your plan is contingent upon what you can and can't do at that site. So, it's, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to understand that, but it really helps you understand where you're going to be at 3, 4, 5 years from now, what role Wiscasset may play in it.
But is that close enough to downtown to answer that downtown question?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
So
you think so?
I think so. As an outsider standpoint, there's been a lot of concentration on downtown. I got to tell you, I've been in North Carolina for a while, and I've been in Albemarle prior to your efforts to update the downtown, and you've done a great job. But as an outsider, your downtown is more than just the single strip.
Right.
it goes down towards the depot, and then you've got the parks near that. I think your downtown, even though it's defined area, the footprint for for a visitor is probably larger than just what it currently is. And where do I take small children right now? Where do I go play after our family has dinner downtown, or where do we go shop? So I think that's important, is expanding the idea of what downtown is from a visitor attraction standpoint.
I'm glad you said what you have about the West Cassett Park.
Mhm.
But right now, it is a dead issue. We took the signage down.
Mhm.
It's not anything that we, as a council, are looking at this
Okay.
point in time. It's the most disappointing thing I've had in my life, to see that, not to have the support from all of us and and our folks that are out there. We are missing the boat. I mean, we're missing the freaking ship, because when you look around the county and go over into Cabarrus County, it's light years away. I mean, Locust is far out in front of us in many ways with the way that they put the athletic pieces together. That was part of your upfront stuff here as well. Let me ask you this: are there any means out there that would provide funding?
Well, I think that's a yes and no. So if you're looking for a third party to come in and fund the entire thing, I don't think that that's likely.
Well,
I do
we
think
found that
it's
out.
going to take some local capital to invest in it. I think I think it's worth a discussion to talk with the county that, hey, this is something that some type of central type park to Albemarle does more good than just good for Albemarle. The other piece is there are some counties that approach, and some local governments that approach their tourism development and allow capital development to take place in the form of parks and recreation amenities. So I know that you have some new hotels that are being developed in the area. Maybe it's worth exploring if some of those funds could help support a long-term development of that property. Other than that, all of these type things can be leveraged with a Parks and Recreation Trust Fund or Land and Water Conservation Fund, but it is going to take some local capital. Um, yeah. So, uh, yes and no. There is no one place that I wish I could tell you, hey, such and such down the road has
Yeah, there's no
$20 million,
conversation.
but that typically does not happen. It does
Well,
take some.
what you mentioned also about that property, Wiscasset property, is we had a study done. It was strictly for a ball field
Right.
complex with a few little amenities. So that still really wouldn't address a multifunctional facility.
So, without seeing exactly what was in there, what we heard from the public is that they want gathering spaces, and what we did see is that there's some need for additional ball fields. It does not look like that property would be able to suit the entire need of your athletic complex. And right now, the way that the college is currently used for your kind of your soccer fields, those are kind of overflow facilities. So it's probably not a one and done of developing Wiscasset. However, it is a case to where it does almost give you a Central Park type feel downtown. That it is more likely that you're going to have a mix of some ball fields there, some athletic facilities, maybe some type of gathering area or green to where you can have concerts there as well as downtown on the street. Maybe that's the best place for you to have your splash pad, which there was outstanding request for.
There were a
Um,
lot of things that came out when we first looked at it.
Yeah.
Was skate,
yeah, yep.
skate park,
Yep.
just different things that were there. But, the community looked at us like, where did you get your head to think about things like that?
Well,
And it's frustrating because, yeah, I agree with a lot of what you have to say, but it takes money to do it.
Mhm.
And for whatever reason, we've got a prime piece of property, 19 acres sitting over there, give or take, that is absolutely useless at this point, and it's frustrating.
Well, and what I'd say, and the reason why I said this is low hanging fruit, is it's one thing to go out and drop $15, $20 million to develop the site. It's another to develop a site-specific master plan for it, which is the next level, which is about $50,000 that says, here is what the public wanted, and that comes through the comp plan, and say, this is what's possible at this site. That way you're weighing the option of, here's what is impacting to go out there versus, this is not feasible. It really helps you just get more information from it. But, yes, sir. I hope that helps some. Yes, sir.
You mentioned you have presented a very complex, comprehensive document here. I read in there somewhere that we were expected to vote to approve or not approve that. What are we committing to if we approve that plan?
We're not proving anything
approving.
tonight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're
Yeah.
accepting it.
Thank you.
We're just
Okay.
hearing from him. You will get the
Yeah.
200-page report, and then have time to digest it and everything before we ever
Okay,
consider
I
it. but-
read that wrong. I thought it said we.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. This is the overview, and like you said, it's going to be 200-page plus. And the other thing is that there's going to be numbers and figures in there that help you understand what those costs are. But what most local governments do is after they adopt the plan, they look at it and say, all right, we can do this, we can't do that. I got to tell you, whenever I was managing the grants for the state, we would rarely ever see, I don't know that I ever saw, a single local government take the comp plan and go front to back exactly in that order. So that doesn't happen. But you may get in there and say, hey, this is good information. This is what the public, we're seeing that this is what they want. We can do this piece of it.
In the full 200-page report, you was talking earlier about tracking cell phone data and being able to tell where, I guess, individuals reside or whatever, in a certain location.
Yep.
I'm just curious if we had a way of tracking, say, like year round. We always hear about travel ball, whether it's football, baseball,
Yeah.
basketball, whatever the sport may be. I feel like every weekend we got a large portion of our population from Stanley County leaving here to go to other towns and stuff for travel ball.
Yep.
And I was just curious if we got a way of tracking approximately how many kids in Stanley County leave this area, because you understand what I'm saying, Lisa?
Yeah.
I can look around and see if there is a leakage report. There's leakage
Yes.
reports for other industries and,
Right.
shopping and retail, but there's probably something in that program that I could pull up.
Yeah, because I frequently hear these parents talking about how much money they spending.
Oh, I can tell you,
you
we,
know,
we're a
tournaments
travel based. Our,
this and that.
if I can take my consultant hat off, we're a travel baseball family. I've got 2 kids that play.
Yeah.
Every single weekend, we're someplace different. If and we look for different, unique destinations. We don't want to go to the same place every time.
Right.
I would love to be able to come and play ball, and then at the night, enjoy downtown, or maybe go hike in the forest after we're done with a tournament game. So, and yes, it is a lot of money that goes into it, and there's investment that goes into it. Now, what I will tell you from a practical standpoint is if you do a site-specific master plan, pay a little bit more. We don't do them, but do a feasibility study. And what the feasibility study will do is a national firm typically will help you understand, all right, with this size property, with this number of ball fields, you're more likely to attract fields. And then that is also in comparison to other fields in the area. So that helps you understand, is this a good investment and what does that investment look like? They're not going to be able to tell you the dollars, but they're going to tell you what type of tournament you'll be able to attract.
But there are dollars involved.
Oh,
I mean, when you attract, I go to Concord and watch my grandchildren play lacrosse,
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And it's some of these things you got to pay to get in there to do it.
oh,
And
yes, you do.
but you've got to have, everybody's got to put their hat on and say, we got to think out of the box here, and what do we need to do, and how do we go about doing the things that you're recommending here?
Yeah.
And that
So,
one of the biggest things I think that we're lacking in it, and it's no fault of the city or Parks and Rec or anything, is that We just haven't made the investment. I'm sorry.
And quite honestly, this is why I included this one slide. So we're actually doing some planning in another place, and I thought this would help y'all. Just for context sake. So that the particular county came in, or the particular city came in, and helped and got an investment for a sports complex. And what you have up here is the state puts out data on how much tourism related tax receipts come in. And what this shows you is what happened before their multi-sports complex came in and what their receipts look like afterwards. And that trend has continued on. It's not, are you going to make money off of an athletic complex or off of a big destination park? Not directly, but are you going to make it through heads and beds and people putting money into your restaurants and people shopping at your shops and people saying, hey, I want to live in Albemarle, so we're going to move our family here. That's what you're going to get.
And this not necessarily directly about that, but it goes back to the other things that bring people to Albemarle. The other issues that bring people to Albemarle. The Wampus Cats, people don't want to really talk about our wooden baseball team, okay? It brings folks,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it brings folks down
Mhm.
here, it brings folks they don't necessarily spend the night. Now, granted, some of them have, when it's been a 2 or 3 days, we're
Yeah.
back to back. They come from everywhere.
Yeah.
And one of the things, guys, that we had that I was going to ask later about, and it really wasn't in here, and I didn't hear anything about it, is our treetop challenge down at Rock Creek.
We talked some about that.
You did?
Yeah.
So it's in the big thick thing?
It is in the big thick plan. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So you have the makings of a nice adventure park in Rock Creek. With not only that, but just the setting of it with
Oh,
the
yeah.
Brambling Creek through it and everything. That you have not every park is going to be a destination park, but you've got a few parks to where you could post it and advertise it, like come out for a day in adventure in Rock Creek and do some treetop challenge, or go down to City Lake Park and spend a day paddling and then hang out for a concert, or do it such and so forth. So we do talk about kind of the difference
Yep.
in some of your parks are going to be quote unquote destination parks. Some of them are going to be more locally focused.
Further
You
questions?
mentioned a number of times about the de facto
Mhm.
part of our Parks and Rec for the county. I couldn't quite tell if that was slightly positive or slightly negative. To me, it's very positive.
Oh, I think
I'm very proud of that, and I want us to, I hope the county never has a Park and Recreation Department.
there's a bunch of. It was meant to be positive. You're filling a need, and you're doing it well. It was also to show that you're having to support a lot of non-resident users, and that's impacting your park. And there are other counties to where the county does chip in and help out with capital projects, or does chip in and help out with some staffing. It is not unheard of. We've done plans for other places that have worked that out. And I can't speak to why the situation is different here, but that does happen.
Further?
But you go
That's
back to
very
the
good.
Field of Dreams. If you recall that movie, you build it, they will come.
Yep, it's a good one.
Doesn't mean that it's this specific, but broadly throughout the city.
Yep.
And that's where the investment's got to come. It's got to go all the way around. And hopefully other things will come about as well.
Yep. Mayor, your public loves Parks and Recreation, and from the sounds of it, y'all do talk too. I know that I've occupied more than my 20 minutes, so I really appreciate your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank you.
much.
Appreciate
We
it.
look forward
Thank
to the full report.
Oh, by all means, and we will look forward to your comments too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
11B, consider a fee schedule for the fiscal year 26 for Parks and Recreation is in your agenda. Comments or questions?
I move we approve it as is presented. I think we've heard from Lisa. We heard from Lisa the other night. We've heard from this report, and she is our Park and Recreation specialist.
I second that.
I have a motion by
we-
Councilmember Hall and a second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion?
Yeah, have we always had resident, non-resident?
Yes.
fees?
Yes.
Is there, I just want to ask, the theater, Albemarle Theater, is it
separate
It
listed
has,
parts? Or-
it has, I know it has Monday through Thursday fee and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not sure if that's separated between, resident or non-resident.
Okay.
Further questions, comments?
Effective date,
Thank you.
July 1st?
July 1, yes,
1st.
yes, sir. Thank you for that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank
Council, I
y'all.
had two additions to the agenda. The first is to appoint a member to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. That currently is being served by Lindsay Oman, and she is agreeing to do another 3 years if council so desires.
So moved.
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Hall, second by Councilmember Townsend. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
We do have one other on there. We have one other person, the city have one other.
There's two
Martha
people.
Hughes.
So just Martha, you and Martha? That's what I thought.
Council, the other item is to consider real estate. If you remember, I mentioned to you 2 meetings ago, I guess it was, that had been contacted by a lady wanting to sell the property on West Main Street. We talked about that property and decided to make them an offer of $10,000. They have accepted that offer and contingent on council agreeing to that tonight. It is the old property formerly known as the Almar Road Drive-In, backs up to our Central Avenue property where we have our delivery point. And I went over that day and walked it. I told you there was no building. There's no roof on the building. There is 3 walls of an old ticket stand still there, block walls, but it is deep in the woods. So it is still there. If council is agreeable, I would entertain a motion that we approve the purchase of 653-804-615-374 and 653-804-619-303 from Albemarle Amusement and Realty LLC for the price of $10,000.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Dry, second by Councilmember Hall. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Clark, I believe next is your report.
Thank you, Mayor. Several things to mention tonight. The Wampus Cats has been mentioned earlier this evening. They have their game opener May 24th, at which time we are also planning a dedication for our new lighting system. Lisa, thank you for all your hard work on that. So the game starts off at 7 o'clock, and hope you can make it out. I know the mayor's going to make some opening remarks and appreciation for the lights, so thank you. Also, we are in the midst of installation of safety netting. The netting is actually on order, should be here by the end of this month. The netting will run generally from parallel with the first base line from the backstop to first base. It will have a height of 40 feet, so there will be 15 feet from the ground to the bottom of the net, and then another 25 feet above that, which puts it above the old tree line that was there. We are negotiating to ensure that we are off of DOT's right-of-way, and we are not interfering with existing electric utility lines. So those are some things that we're working through as far as logistics of getting those installed. I want to thank the electric crew for helping us do that. So we should have that up, excuse me, in the coming weeks. So just an update on safety netting that's going up. Pickleball courts at Rock Creek Park are scheduled to be resurfaced May 26th. Lisa has also worked on a story walk program at City Lake, and she would like to do a dedication of that. The date is to be determined. We do not have that yet, but we will certainly let you know. Public Works, street paving started today with our contractor NJR. They started with East Cannon between 5th Street to 9th Street, and our Public Works Department is also working on other in-house paving projects as well. So just be aware that NJR is in town and they are paving. Public utilities, we are getting started with an electric AMI, which is automatic meter infrastructure project. Our staff has been working to do some preliminary testing with AMI equipment, but coordination is required with the vendor and our billing software. And so we're going through these testing procedures to ensure that we're successful on day one. We will have approximately about 11,000 meters that will be installed, and that will begin in the month of June. But I just wanted you to be aware that that's going to be going on as a project as well in the next several weeks. As I had mentioned in a prior meeting, we did have an issue with two sediment basins. It's lagoons, is what we called them, at Jack Neal Water Plant. Brian Henson has informed me today that we've removed approximately 65 tons of sludge from the plant or from the lagoons, and we're doing a system-wide clean project. We're also in the midst of executing contracts with Eagle Creek to enable the city to dredge approximately 23,000 square feet of the reservoir at the point of discharge. So I appreciate the staff getting busy and making sure that we're doing everything we can to clean up that problem. With economic development, just a couple of quick updates about Albemarle Business Center. Lindsay has informed me that we are this week installing a 120-foot privacy fence for an adjacent resident at the Henson Street entrance to the center. And that's something that has been in our budget and something that we had negotiated with that citizen prior to the commencement of the construction of the park. She is also working on getting a final quote for the ABC sign at Highway 52 business entrance. That seems to be a very challenging issue right now, given the size of that sign, but Lindsay's continuing to work with the vendor on negotiating pricing. Then finally, Mayor and Council, just a reminder that we have our public hearing scheduled on our FY26 budget for June 2nd. Mayor, that concludes the report. Happy to answer any questions or
Yes,
otherwise.
sir.
Mr. Dry.
At Rock Creek, what product will we use to resurface those courts? And did we not do it like year before last or so?
Lisa, you'll have to answer that one. I'm not sure what the material is for the pickleball courts.
So it's we're using, it's kind of like a mesh underlay that will go under or where the cracks are. And then it'll be like the regular asphalt on top of that. We had those done in 2021, but it was a different fix than what we're doing now. This is a total resurfacing.
So you'll have a mesh product that goes down and then asphalt over
Yes.
it.
It's called Right Way Crack Repair, if you wanted to Google that.
Because I'm sure I will have a phone call.
I feel like I've
Tomorrow.
talked to most everybody.
And I normally get it from a couple.
I
But
think
thank
I
you.
know who you get it from, and I've probably talked to them.
But, thank gosh, we've got folks out there that care. And they want good facilities to be able to play on. And, that's another growing sport out there. And I don't think right now you couldn't have enough pickleball courts to draw the people from the surrounding area. But we've listened to the public, and that's what we're here for, to ensure that we're meeting their needs and we're getting them a product, if you will, that they can utilize without tripping, falling, having to wash out the water or take cans and dip it out so they can play. So we've come a long way. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Will you be removing what's currently there?
I think it goes on top, but I can check into that.
And how long, do you know how long it's going to take?
It'll take 2 weeks is what they, so it'll open back on June 9th. Weather dependent, of course.
Thank you. Further question from Mr. Clark?
A couple. So, just as a follow-up from tonight's park has brought me some other things that I'd like to know before budget time. And it can just be a email, what the status of Treetop Challenge is and what's going on down there. And this is the time of the year that they ought to be busting at the seams. Money from Visitor Center, what our hotel tax is, and you all probably have access to that, but it's something that I think that it's, might be one of those beneficial amounts of money that we have access to on June 2nd, again, as I have said many times. When we go to this budget, we're gonna have to be able to make some offensive statements about the rate. So I think that's an amount of money that we can say, we get that and we're using that. And I don't know that I saw in the backup, and I may have missed it in the budget, what the status of retail strategies is going to be and what they've done, when we're gonna have a report from them, and what we're gonna continue to do with them. TDA, I've just asked you about. Follow up on Wampus Cats, there are 25 home games, and as the manager indicated, the opening is Saturday, then they've got one on Monday, on Memorial Day. I would just say that that's our team, guys, and please come as often as you can. Most of the games are at 7, a couple of them are at 6. One of them is on a Wednesday at 11 o'clock in the middle of the day. Can you imagine? But that's exactly when it happens. The last thing is, and Todd, I think I sent you messages twice today. I am continuing to see folks on Henson Street, on going into Walmart there at Zaxby's, and today I saw it right in front of the tidal wave at Blue Bay in that middle of the road. Folks with plastic buckets and crosses on the buckets and crosses on their shirts, walking out in the street handing out stuff. If that is not, I mean, people are in the road, and I mean, I saw it 2 different times within about an hour, and both times, Todd, I just sent it to you, just because somebody's going to get hit, either a person or another car, because of those folks just in and out. Oh yeah, they're just, and you saw it today too. So I know that it's that fine line that we walk, okay, and that we cannot do certain stuff. However, we've got to do that for the safety of our folks.
You know, they can hand stuff out, but they are not supposed to go in the road. And especially when you're on 24, 27, right there at Walmart and the others. I mean, it's, Chief, I think you need to have your folks pay a little more attention to that. Also on 52 at 24, 27, there's always a bunch of people out there because that's a high visibility area. And they are out in the street. They are walking down beside the cars,
Chief.
either handing or what. It doesn't matter. They ought not to be out there.
Yes, sir, I did get the complaint from David Fass' office. We came up with a plan. They are the same people that we dealt with several weeks ago at the Zaxby's in response to another one. We are going to take a little bit different approach this time, so we should be able to get it stopped rather quickly. We are going to be out there tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. One of them's going to shoot me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else to come before council?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night COG, I think is majority of us signed up. That is at Brentwood Farms in Locust. Starts at 6:30.
We're going to carpool from here, possibly.
That is totally up to council if they want to carpool from here.
Sounds like a reasonable thing to do, leaving here at 6 o'clock.
I know.
I'd leave before that if you're gonna go.
You talking about carpooling?
Yeah.
You know, previously we've done that
They
Yeah.
often take
outside
7 cars
the
out
city
there.
limits.
That's right.
You know, and I think that would be a
All right.
good thing.
Who would like to meet here in carpool? Let's hear that first.
I'll play it by ear. I'm not sure.
Well, I know timing is a lot.
'Cause it'll take more than one vehicle. That's what I'm asking.
I'll drive. Don't count me in.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. We'll meet here at 5:45. Good with everybody?
Yep.
5:45. We'll leave here at 5:45 tomorrow. And going back to Saturday night, when we go to the Wampus Cats Dedicate the Lights, if you would like to come and join me, I would appreciate it, and we will do that probably a few minutes. Lisa, are you there? Probably a few minutes before the game time, we will do the dedication.
Yes, sir.
So we need to be there by 6:45.
Oh, yeah, that's time I'm planning to be there.
Okay, thank you.
And that's
Saturday
Saturday
night,
night.
6:45, we'll do the light dedication. Further comments, questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion that we adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting on June the
I
2nd,
move we adjourn.
6:30 PM. Motion by Councilmember Bramlett,
second.
second by Councilmember Dry. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.